Hey, there we go, for real this time. It is 4 o'clock. You're hanging out on Mia Talks. I'm super pumped about the rock star, brilliant lady, mastermind who is engineering her way into doing so much good in our community and with our talent. And so I can't wait for you to hang out with Ambria Berksteiner if you have had a chance to personally meet her, learn about some of her projects, Operation One STEM at a time. Also, she is right in the middle of fundraising for Savannah-Chatham CASA as there are Dancing with the Stars contestants. So let me be very inclusive and thoughtful that any donation that you make to anyone that's involved with Savannah-Chatham CASA is going to work to support children who are within our court systems right now. And that's so critical, especially as we know that household needs are more important, and that continues to be in place for children in our area. My name is Mia Mans. I say thank you every single time that you take your time to be a part of a conversation that's designed to uplift and bring some good into your world and into your family's world. You can see past talks at www.miatalks.com. These talks would not be possible amazing sponsors who believe that's success. So starting with the insurance team, if you've not had a chance to talk to David and his Allstate insurance team, they've been voted the best of the Coastal Empire. You can call them at 912-961-9617. Speak to David, speak to Angela, speak to Tammy, and always invested in giving back. So let me say this, as we know, supporting local businesses is so critical. When you're supporting them, you're also supporting the success of our community. You're supporting a veteran-owned business. So again, check out the David Allstate team. And of course, the amazing team at Fresh Off the Dock Seafood Delivery, Kissy and Joe. They are ready to feed you, especially Ambria. I don't know if you're like me when it's cold, you just want to stay inside and eat and let people bring food to you. Kissy and Joe will do that for you. You can reserve the best and fresh seafood. Hilton Head to Savannah at 843-304-2055. Find Fresh Off the Dock Seafood, Facebook, Instagram. They accept all forms of payment. And again, literally, or they do a seafood Sunday every single Sunday, Hilton Head. So without further ado, my gosh, Ambria, you have so many titles, so many accomplishments. I just want you to tell people like who you are, where you started, because you are a girl born and raised in Savannah and making it happen right here at home. So let's go into your story and then where you're at right now, please.
Okay, so starting back, even before Operation One STEM at a time, like you said, I am a Savannah native. I'm a product of the Savannah-Chatham County Public School System. Go Savannah Arts Academy, yay! And it helped me to launch me into this journey, all of my experiences. So if I just talk about how I got into advocating for women in STEM, or to expose more young girls in STEM. It started really when I was a senior in high school. I joined something called the Explore Post program, and I wanted to do broadcast and journalism because I love to talk, I love to speak. I thought that I was going to be the next journalist of Vogue. That's what I thought my life was leading me. And there were no more spots left. And so my mother and my advisor, who I still talk to today, Ms. Barbara Foley, she said, hey, I really think based off of your grades and your intellect and just your interest as a whole, you would be great for the engineering portion of this program. And, at the time I was like, what is that? I had already, had small experiences in STEM with summer camps and things like that, but I had never had a full on, I guess, internship or mini internship at the time. And so, they forced me to do it. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so that experience changed my life. Thank you to Thomas and Hutton engineering firm, civil engineering here in Savannah, for giving me that experience. That really showed me that, hey, I can use my love for the visual arts and my love for science and math and mesh them all together to create, to have this beautiful career, which is engineering. And so from there, I got accepted to the #1 HBCU, Spelman College, in Atlanta, Georgia. And again, once again, I was like, okay, how am I going to implement this new plan? Now that I'm not going the communications route, how am I going to implement this engineering plan? And so they had something called a dual degree engineering program. And it's where you do about 3 or 4 years at Spelman College, and you do 2 years at an engineering institution. Mine was Auburn University, War Eagle. And I did that for a couple of years. Well, actually not a couple, 6. And during that time, I did something else crazy. I ran for Miss Savannah USA and got the position. And honestly, that platform helped launch Operation One STEM at a Time, and just launch my idea as far as mentoring young girls in STEM. That really gave me the platform to elevate that further. So what happened with that was I had to pick, as Miss Savannah USA, Miss Black Savannah USA, I had to choose a platform that was near and dear to my heart, something personal that I could use throughout my year to reign and to represent my community and to make a difference in my community. And so I knew that I hadn't received an experience in STEM or received some sort of mentor in STEM until it was my sophomore year at Spelman College. And I thought to myself, okay, what if we expose young girls to this so much earlier? So, 6th grade, 5th grade, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't these opportunities, are these people available to these girls that are 10 or 11 that may be interested in science and technology and engineering and math, but they don't have the resources to blossom that idea or that dream? And so Operation One STEM at a Time was born. I called my mom in my dorm room. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to have a STEM platform. And if you would have told me 5 years ago, well, really 6 now, it's 2021, as a sophomore at Spelman College, that 5 years later, it would still be going strong. Because I thought, this would just be a year. This is something, I could do, make a difference for about 12 months, and, I would move on. But, after my reign, it's something that really stuck with me. And I said to myself, this is something that I could really see myself doing on the side of my, my actual career. And I'm just so blessed and so grateful that God has, trusted me with this platform to do, mentorship, to, pay it forward. When I was in those programs, I had, as you know, and as I will get into it a little bit further, STEM is mostly a male-dominated field. So all throughout these experiences, except for when I got a mentor as my mentor at Spelman College as a sophomore, all of my experiences have been dominated by men, and I was taught. Shout out to Thomas and Hunt, I love them, but all of my experiences were fueled by men, and they, men were teaching me how to survey, men were teaching me how to draft plans, men were teaching me these things. I had male teachers. And so I never really saw a woman in that position. And I'm just glad that I can pay it forward and show some little girl that maybe had the same idea as me very early on that, you can do it too. And especially as a woman of color. And so I'm just so glad that, Spelman, I can call myself, not only have this resume, Miss Savannah, Spelman grad, Auburn grad, industrial engineering, mathematics, but I can also call myself a mentor and a friend to these young girls. And so that is how I got here today. It has been the greatest ride of my life, and I'm excited to see where it takes me.
Ambria, okay, first of all, if you could see all the likes and hearts on you killing at all of, I mean, under 25. Girl, you are, seriously, when people are over, you are incredible. And you didn't take a breath when you're like, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I created this. However, the one part of your story that I did not know was that you changed your dream. Mm-hmm. And I have always thought, oh, she's just walking in. Nope. Knew that she was going to go into this field, into this field and break glass ceilings, and here she comes creating this woman in STEM day in Savannah to honor all of the women who are in engineering in our community. And then followed you, she created this dynamic awards community, which told the engineering stories of huge people, huge scientists at Savannah State, Thomas and Hutton, engineering firms all across the area, Meredith Stone, you name it. She just united mega creators and thought leaders in the engineering and science industry. No breath. So hit comments as I show you these comments, or as people are tuning in. Literally, Alandi is saying amazing. How did you have faith at such a young age, Ambria, to transition your original dream? Because I feel like so many times people get stuck on only this one thing. If I don't do this, I'm a failure. If I don't find my space in this industry, that something's wrong with goals. How did you know that it was give yourself permission to transition?
Okay, so that is a very good question. That's something that I actually talk to, my 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds with. I tell them that life is a blueprint. And I always relate it back to engineering. Blueprints are never actually final until you start building whatever you're building. And so I always tell them it's okay to make this change. It's okay to not necessarily have the same dream or the same plan that you once had, but as long as you know how to navigate. I'll say for me, I was just blessed with a strong support system. If it wasn't for these people pushing me into, engineering, something that I wasn't really even exposed to at the time, in such depth, imagine, where I would be now. And it was scary, but I'm just glad that I really want to shout out my mother, because my mom really pushes me and all of us. I have all sisters, 3 sisters. She pushes all of us to just try new things. She's always saying, you can't stay in the box. Of course, venture outside of the box. And so she, along with Miss Barbara, really, they really pushed me to implement that idea, or to look at a different direction. And also, as a woman in STEM, it's hard. I know you guys see the magazines and you see the articles and all these great things that I'm doing, but of course I've dealt with imposter syndrome. And if anybody doesn't know what imposter syndrome is, that's just not feeling like you belong in a certain area or a certain space, but you do. And as a woman in STEM, you do deal with imposter syndrome, being maybe the only woman in the room, or maybe being the only Black woman in the room. And so, just having those experiences and having those people to push me. And, during my programs, there are oftentimes I see lots of people that leave because they don't have that strong support system, or they don't have, the team that I had to say, hey, keep moving. STEM is hard. And I'm just so blessed and thankful that I had people that just told me, to keep going. Everybody that picked up my calls late at night, whether I was working on a project or plans or something like that. So I would just say to people who are questioning whether to transition their dream or change their dream, just always remember life is a blueprint. Whatever plan or vision God gives you, it's not how you get there, is, getting to the end result ultimately. So, don't, be so scared about, it changing. Just embrace it and embrace the journey. So.
The life is a blueprint is nugget, Ambria, especially in this time that we're in, because I think everyone is shifting their blueprint. They're modifying the structures that they have created or built. And so that's so awesome that you get that lesson, and then you're passing it on to young people so early. So when change comes, or having to be flexible, or having to walk into new opportunities, it's really interesting. I did not expect you to go there with imposter syndrome, that because you're so powerful, you're so dynamic, and as a person who you're always just making it happen. It's interesting, though, to know that at moments when you're in a room and there's no one that looks like you in a room, and I know that so many self included, understand when you're in a room, you're literally holding space for hundreds of people that you represent and thousands of people and thousands of dreams and prayers and ancestors. So even if there's ever any fear, hesitation, your worthiness, like Maya Angelou would always say, it's already been paid and fought for you to be in that room, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So let's hop into, how did you know it was okay to start giving back even though you hadn't built your final big dreams yet? Because I think sometimes people go, when I make it, I'll do, or I'll start to create. How did you know in your heart that it was the right time to go ahead and bring Operate STEM to life? And how hard was that to all of a sudden get this project, this nonprofit, and get sponsors and things like that off the ground?
So that's a good question, because I feel like a lot of the times what stops a lot of young people and a lot of people that could possibly start like a grassroots movement or something like that is because they think they're not qualified. And what a lot of people don't know is a lot of the young people that made changes, back in the day, they were, my age or a little bit younger. I just turned 26. So, they were in their early 20s, trying to probably figure out the same thing. But as far as starting Operation One Step at a Time, that is actually a good question. Like I said, when I was Miss Black Savannah, I just thought, hey, I'm going to go to, these schools, talk with them about what I'm doing and how they can do it too, give them some pointers and do these activities with them. And that would be it. And we would go to schools, not only in Savannah, but Atlanta. Funny story, I actually started at Spelman College with 5 girls in a classroom. I think it was about 5 or 6. And they were the daughters of alum. It was during reunion week. And I did What is the Blueprint of Your Life, which we did vision boards. Like I said, I always relate whatever I'm mentoring in at the time or whatever I'm trying to teach them. I always relate them back to some sort of STEM lesson. And in the beginning, I asked them, okay, who's interested in science, technology, engineering, and math? And, as little girls, they were like, no. And after we got done with the project and I explained to them how whatever career you choose, as whether that's, to be a chemist, to be a lawyer, to be, an astronaut, to be a cosmetologist, you have to have STEM skills or some sort of STEM skills. You may not know it, but you're going to have those skills. And so after I saw all of their hands raised, I asked them the same question at the end of the at the end of the project. I said, hey, who can see themselves doing this now? And almost everyone raised their hand, and they were asking me what it was like to be in that position. And, that small moment, I told myself, and I called my mother, I was like, I can really see myself doing this long term. And I don't think if you're not, I won't even say if you're not a minority, if you're someone that's not a part of the underrepresented community, you don't necessarily know, I guess, maybe all the times what that feels like to not see yourself in these spaces. So, like I said, imposter syndrome is real. And, you think it may start when you're older, but no, it starts in elementary school. It starts as a toddler, not thinking you're good enough to do something, not thinking you have the skill set or the qualifications. And I told myself, okay, here I am, a sophomore at Spelman College. I'm barely halfway through my program. I just accepted this new title as Miss Black Savannah. But this is something that I could come back to Savannah to do, even if it's just a conversation. Not even the STEM activities were implemented then, but even if it's just a conversation, even if it's just to tell a girl she's enough, that is what I decided to do. And I, growing up in Savannah and, growing up in the public school system and seeing, the difference between maybe this child or this school having resources and this child or this school not having resources, you can see how that can also alter someone's mindset and thinking and life plan, and thinking whether or not they're qualified to be in a room or qualified to be in a space later on. And so again, just having that mother that told me, Ambria, you can make a difference no matter what. And you can make a difference right now. And so I just told myself, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And a lot of people, like I said, they see the magazine articles and they see all of the, I guess I won't say attention, but they see, I guess, the reward. But, this 5 years has been a lot of hard work, starting with going to these different types of schools, and going to these different places, doing these STEM activities with these girls, explaining to them how STEM can be implemented in their daily lives, telling them that, not necessarily shoving STEM to them and saying, hey, you have to major in STEM or you have to have a career in STEM, but just letting them know that whatever they decide to do, just put your best foot forward and to have that blueprint. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Because sometimes, a child just needs someone to talk to. A child just needs someone to know that they're listening and know that, okay, yes, she relates to me. I guess it also helped too that I wasn't too far off from their age, and talking with them. But I shared my experiences. Yes, I gotten through this program, but there were days that I didn't think that I would get through this, or I would, our operation one STEM at a time would keep going. So it's really just been a blessing to just persevere and just be here today. As far as getting sponsors and the community support, I think it was just me. And once again, my mother. If you see me, just like I said, if you see me, you'll see my mother. Mia knows that. But just canvassing around Savannah, and
your mom's awesome.
Yes. Just being around Savannah and canvassing and just explaining to them my mission. I always say I want to educate, enlighten, and empower. And I always say you cannot have one without the other. You have to educate the child. You have to enlighten the child always, keep them engaged. And you have to empower the child to see their vision through. When I entered Spelman, they are saying it's a choice to change the world. And my whole foundation of Operation One STEM at a Time was to give that child in Savannah that choice. That may not think that they have that choice. And again, I would say the community has been very, very supportive in backing me and, just with me explaining my initiative because they didn't have to listen, and just giving me the chance to come in and, speak with their young girls. I've spoken to young boys as well. But just go into like their certain spaces and explain why we need women in STEM, why we need women of color in STEM. How can you change the world by whatever you want to do? And again, this has just been the ride of my life. It's very funny. I always say God has a funny way of planning things out. Like I said, STEM was not my first career choice. And so it's just funny how something that I didn't think I would be successful in, as an example, something that I didn't think that I would be successful in or had a choice in, I'm now here, I guess, making a difference. I still think I have a lot more ground to cover, but yeah, I would say getting sponsors and getting the community, it took some time, but now I feel like I have this strong foundation. I'm forever grateful for the citizens of Savannah for just embracing me and embracing STEM and Operation One STEM at a Time.
So you are doing amazing things. Let us all affirm you. Haven't seen it where it says you're phenomenal. Jennifer Graham saying you're amazing. There is no guess or on that. Sit there and all of your value and all of your worth. I think that's another nugget when you said educate, enlighten, and empower how you approach, how you show up to young people. I think that's another gem, like you were talking about, having a blueprint that you're willing to adjust for your life, to understand there is the responsibility to educate, but also to make their minds open and empower them to step into a position like yours. And it's interesting when you're talking about, and I think any one of us in, the Savannah-Chatham County area, when you talk about different experiences at different schools and different resources. I think that's an ongoing conversation. And even in the Georgia legislature right now, that's a big conversation of what they're going to do with funding for schools out of school, and if they're going to, move that funding to other schools, which could potentially compromise their schools across our state. So I think, especially like being able to understand education is the biggest, the most freeing gift that a person can have, that will allow to go anywhere and to walk into any room. I'm so glad you're sitting and holding that space. We did want to take on, Ambria, the hiring realities of STEM, what it looks like, C-suite, what it looks like for leaders in tech, because I know that it's a very small percentage, and I'm going to allow you to break that down. But I want to have a conversation about how we begin to be advocates of building more equity for representation in technology and engineering and mathematics. So can you go into some of that data for us, please?
Yes, absolutely. So as a woman in STEM, out of 100%, only 28% of individuals are women. So that's science, technology, engineering, and math. So your doctors, your engineers, your mathematicians, your scientists, your biologists, etc. But out of that 28%, only 6% are in engineering. And out of that 6%, there's only about 3% of women that are African American that are earning these degrees in science, technology, engineering, math, or just engineering in my portion. So that number is very low, under 5%. And just getting into the salary, being a woman, we don't even make, I would say, for an example, men in STEM, they make about, I think the last time I checked, it was about like $34, maybe an hour on average. And women make about 29. So, and imagine being, a Black woman, that number is even lower. So just bridging those gaps and talking about that, because sometimes I feel like that's a conversation that, equal pay has always been an ongoing conversation, but as far as women in STEM, I feel like that conversation is just now blossoming for us because, we're just now fighting to get into these spaces and say, hey, we're here, we're smart too, and we can do this work too. So now we're inside this door, and now it's like, okay, what do we do now? And it's, the equal pay gap, making sure that, we're paid not only equal to women of color, but also men as well. So that has been just an ongoing battle. As far as hiring outside of work, I would say that if a woman in STEM or a woman who just graduated that has a degree in any of the STEM components, I would say I won't say it's easy to get a job right now. Of course, we're in a pandemic, but you are a minority. So, or I am a minority, I guess. And so, just being a woman and being a Black woman, I won't say I'm desirable as a candidate, but, they're looking for someone that looks like me to be at these companies and be at these tables. It doesn't necessarily mean they always want to hear what we have to say, but they want us at these tables because they have certain types of, I guess, policies or rules that they have to follow along and say, hey, you don't have this certain person represented in this room. You need to get this person at the table. So that's kind of why I'd say it's kind of easy for women right now in tech and in STEM to get a job. But like I said, oftentimes our voices, we're still trying to fight to get heard, to be heard. I would say throughout my internship processes and throughout, I guess, now that I'm in the professional world and I'm not, on a campus anymore where you're kind of like in this bubble, I'll say as an engineer, it's hard for sometimes men, and sorry, men, sometimes I'll say you're kind of second guessed. I know I'm just small in nature. I'm short. And I probably don't look my age too. And so sometimes your abilities are often second guessed. And I would say that's for a woman, that's for a Black woman, that's for any woman of color. And so, you know, I feel as though when we start having these conversations and when we start having, you know, panels and discussions where it's not only women in the room, it's men too, in all walks of life and from all cultures, and we're talking about this, I won't think that it's not going to, you know, happen instantly overnight, but, you know, that's just something that's going to gradually have to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and say, hey, we still have problems and issues here. But yes, it is kind of sad that, you know, as a woman who probably knows, if not more, are the same, if not the same, are more, than her male counterpart, I won't be paid equally because I am a woman. And so just to that, I would say keep going. Like you said, fight for your voice to be heard in the room, even if they don't necessarily want to hear your opinion. Even if they necessarily don't want to hear it, it's going to have to be heard. And I would just say I'm just, you know, blessed that I am able to have a position in the room, because some people don't have that position in the room. And I would just say that once we start paying attention to those little details, like, okay, we're working on, you know, women in STEM, like, this is great, but, you know, what about pay? What about, you know, maternity leave? What about paid maternity leave? What about, you know, if we, you know, have to raise our family, you know, having remote options, you know, that's something that's starting to be in a conversation now because we're in a pandemic. So all of that is actually stems, it branches on and stems on to other conversations that we have yet to touch on. So, yeah.
So the comments, again, you are hitting everybody, as you can see there, right? Like you are literally hitting the nail on the head when it comes to what you are talking about. And we appreciate, Ambria, your transparency so much, because I know so many of us late that are listening to you. You also twin. So if people don't know, you are a twin, and your twin is tuning in right now. And she's like, hey, sis, I love you. So you're going to see her comments.
Yes,
her comments that are hitting there. So, you know, we are in, at this exact moment, we are watching the power of tech giants, right? The Googles, the Twitters, the Amazons, the Facebooks, and the back history from what I'm aware of was that there was a strong problem in Silicon Valley of bringing anyone of difference. It was like good old boys club into tech companies, into promoting, into training. And I say this because I think ownership is always a game changer. At the ability, the person at the top always has the ability to make those bigger leadership decisions, right? So what do you think when our media, you name it, is controlled a lot by tech? What is the issues that we need to be having with these companies? Because obviously, right, like I'm streaming on social platforms that I don't own. How do we begin to take a little bit of our own power back when it comes to having ownership within the technology sector? So we're not wondering if either people are getting hired or promoted like yourself or other people in the industry, or if something changes within these platforms now, how we'll still be able to do what we need to do as a group of collective people too.
Okay. I will say it does start at the top, like you said. And we can't necessarily boycott because, like you said, it's a monopoly. You know, they own all of these corporations and all of these big, you know, streaming platforms and everything. And so I would just say with that, that's kind of a tricky question for me, because I'm not really exposed to the tech side of it. I'm more so kind of on the consulting and the office side of it. But I do have a lot of friends. Like I have friends that work at Microsoft. I have friends that work at Google that say that, oh, maybe they were passed up on a promotion to a man. And, you know, maybe they had been performing 10 times or twice as good, but once again, they were passed up. And I would say does start from the top. I would say once we start challenging them on these issues, a lot of people think like, oh, these conversations aren't going to work. These, letters aren't going to work. These protests aren't going to work. But, if you look at, history, Me Too, Black Lives Matter, etc., that just started from someone just having a conversation and saying, hey, this isn't right. And so just for example, like I was saying, one of my friend, she works at Microsoft. And I remember a particular time we were at a conference, and she was the only woman and the only woman of color giving interviews to applicants. And, just from my personal observation, she was probably the only one that I saw really taking applications from minority students. This was a undergrad conference. Professionals were there too. And so, just seeing those experiences, you may think something like that is very small, but like you said, when you have people, in order for us to get in the door, these big corporations are going to have to start placing more, I won't say her name, but we're going to have to start placing more of those people in these places and in these rooms and in these conferences to, listen to our students, to scout for this talent, to bring others in, because I think that's a lot of the times that's the issue too. A lot of people may not think that they're biased or towards a certain student or towards a person of a different background or demographic, but you can be unknowingly, you can be. And so, that's just something that I had observed, and I was like, wow, we think that maybe we aren't good enough, but really at times we're just looked over because we're not what society tells us is normal to be in these spaces. And so, like I said, that would be the main point for me, is just to start a conversation, like I'm doing with you now. Why was my Spelman sister the only, woman, of course, at the conference on the team? And then why was she the only person that was probably seeing a majority of the minority students or the students of color? And so, those are just conversations that I feel like you have to bring up. Not saying that they do it on purpose, but sometimes they may not know that they're doing it. Just bring it to their attention and say, hey, this is what, you say you want this diversity and this inclusion, but what are you actually striving for, or what are you actually implementing to make sure that is put into place and make sure that that is seen through, from the CEO to the people that we see at these conferences and to your workers in your stores. And so I would say that's my personal experience with that, and that would be my answer on that, as far as just having more of us shown visibly, if I'm making sense.
Absolutely. And I think that I think if people went to the beginning of this talk and just listened to not just your success, but how thoughtful and mindful you are to bringing people forward. And that's, to me, that's when you look at how I personally measure success. It's not what you do, it's not the things people see, but it's how many opportunities your platform, your work can create for other people to elevate it to a different level, right? So like you were talking about broadcasting and journalism. Listen, I have a whole act 2 of your life when you're done with engineering, so we'll work that part out. But so the other thing that you are really into and that is on your heart right now is your work with Savannah-Chatham CASA. Yes. So I want to make sure that we devote kind of this last part of today's show to why CASA is on your heart, because obviously they work really hard, every year with Dancing with the Stars, and it happens to be in the time of COVID, which is totally different ways and things you have to do to fundraise. But tell me why you really, really wanted to do this. 2, do you really have some amazing dance moves we're going to see on camera and be like, oh my God, look at Ambria? And 3, how we can support you. So tell me first why it's on your heart, Ambria.
So it's actually a pretty funny story. I was approached by a friend of mine to do Dancing with the Stars. They thought I would be a great fit for it. because of my position in the community, I would help bring awareness to it. And when I was told the mission of CASA, I was on board. I have family members that have been in the foster care system. I have friends that have experienced the foster care system. And so for people that don't know, Savannah-Chatham CASA is an organization here in Savannah and nationally. And so basically what they do is that they help children that were neglected or abused during their time in the foster care system. So a lot of times they have these volunteers that they train and that they prepare to mentor these children. And so whether that's through, getting them food, clothing, a permanent home, whether that's just someone to talk to during their hearings and during all of these things that go on within the foster care system. That is what Savannah-Chatham CASA does. And so when they told me that, I was like, oh, that's great. Because fun fact, like I said, I knew people that were in the foster care system, but until Operation One Step at a Time, that really opened my eyes up to be able to speak or interact with children from all different types of backgrounds and cultures, including children that had been in or exposed to the foster care system. And so once I decided to do it, I said yes. Some of my kids were foster care kids. And so I really thought that was something that would resonate with me. And something that I could add and say, hey, I've worked with these kids. I know that they are just as capable as anybody else when given the love and attention. And so that's how I got into Dancing with the Stars. Now, this dance moves situation, because, I like to say that God has blessed me with many talents, but rhythm is not one of them. So we shall see. I'm working with the Savannah Ballroom here in Savannah. It's off of Montgomery Crossroad, and they are teaching me and my lovely cousin, Dr. Josh Pittman. He is a pediatric resident at Memorial Health. He is my partner in the program this year. It's April 9th. And so we shall see. I will be posting clips of my practices and you guys can see if I am getting any better. But yeah, dancing has never been my forte. So this is, again, me jumping out of my comfort zone and saying, hey, I can do this, and people pushing me to do it. So I'm excited. And how you can support me and how you can support all of the couples, you can go to Savannah-Chatham CASA, their website, search them on Google, and you can go to the Dancing with the Stars tab and click on any dancer to fundraise. I believe Mia, oh yeah, you have the link up. I have a personal link to my fundraiser. And also we have a team page. So it's Savannah Dancing with the Stars, Team Berksteiner. If you search that, it should pull up all of the things, and you can also keep track of what me and Josh are doing during this 4-month process of learning how to cut a rug. I can tell you what we are doing. We are doing a Harlem Renaissance type style dance. So very 1920s, swing style, jazz. So that's going to be very fun. I'm not going to say what we're dancing to, but if you think like the flashy dresses with like the fringe on them and the suspenders and stuff, we're taking that era on. And so I'm very excited for that. And once again, just grateful for the opportunity. I see Jennifer just commented, yes, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to not only raise awareness for children even more, but just to have an opportunity to show off another talent, maybe a hidden talent to the city of Savannah. So I'm excited.
I like how fearless you are, Ambria. Your fearlessness is, listen, if we could take away so much from your talk today, and your fearlessness from beginning to end, like, listen, I will do this dance. I'm not even sure how it's going to look, but y'all just stick with me and donate and know that it's for kids and for good. And I think it's really important to know that if your own family is going through it in this time that we're in, how much more scary, crazy, in need of stability kids are who are within the foster care system, right? And I think knowing that CASA works to have these court-appointed advocates and working to, potentially reconcile the kids with their families, there's so many different dynamics. And just being a kid having to go through all that, that's stressful. So knowing that you can support this program, let me put the banner up again so that people can check out how to donate. So Ambria, I know too, you have to do your own special fundraiser at some point.
Yes.
Do you have that planned out so people know how to support you or what your special fundraiser is going to be coming up?
Yes. So stay tuned for that. I can tell you, I believe it's going to be a seafood oyster boil, but it's going to be COVID-19, taking precaution. Is going to be socially distant. So stay tuned for more details on that. That will probably happen in late February, early March. So I'm excited for that. That is going to be our fundraising event. And also, CASA is having an event in March as well, called the Almost There event, kind of like our kickoff event that we had in November, where we're almost there, literally a couple of weeks away. And that's kind of our last push to just raise the extra funds that we may need. So all couples, if you do not know, all couples are charged with raising $10,000. And so that is our main goal. A lot of people surpass that. And so hopefully we're one of the couples that does. There's also other fun awards that you can get during your time. There's People's Choice, excuse me. There's, I think it's called the Judge's Choice. I know, they like your dance particularly. And of course, the mirror ball is the person that raises the most money. And so that's the big award that everybody kind of wants and strives for. And so I'm just really looking forward to it. I don't really, it was funny. I didn't really consider myself a Savannah star, but maybe after this, I will be sealed into history as one. So I'm excited.
Have you not checked out all of the stuff you've done? Yes. Again, we will all affirm you on this talk. You are beyond a star. You are a whole galaxy of Ambria, and we're in awe. So I do hope that when we get done with this talk, Ambria, that you go back and you look at the comments and you look at how you are inspiring all of us to step boldly into new paths, to embrace our blueprint, to bring others with us, to have heart conversations, to be in the room, to bring others into the room, and then to not leave anyone behind. I feel like I cannot wait to see what you're going to do next. You do so much good. I'm just so thankful to have you in my life, but I'm also thankful to share. Oh, you're so wonderful. You are so fantastic. So please, again, check out Savannah-CASA.networkforgood.com. You'll see all the donation pages. I always encourage, if you want to donations, sprinkling donations to multiple people, it's all going into that same work of Savannah-Chatham CASA. And I know how much Executive Director Kate Blair, Jennifer Grant, as she's like, yes, get those fundraising goals accomplished for CASA. Other youth programs going on. So the Savannah Sigmas are just coming off of their virtual awards gala, and they continue their education fundraising right now. You can find out more information about that on Facebook. Do a quick search. I also got a message to 100 Black Men of Savannah have partnered with Wells Fargo, because we know that Wells Fargo has huge opportunities when it comes to diversity hiring, but they're making initiatives to develop young people in terms of becoming financial investors. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested, if you have a young person in your life between 7th grade and 12th grade who would like to become part of this process, to learn how to get involved in trading and stocks. They'll go to a competition where they'll show off their financial knowledge and potentially receive some financial funding because of this project. Or reach out to Harold Oglesby or the 100 Black Men of Savannah, and then can link your child up with that program. Everyone's invited to participate in that. Obviously, we are going into the Dr. King holiday this weekend. So if you are on my personal social, you'll already see I've got Tybee MLK stuff posted for Friday. Their humanitarian awards are this Friday at 2. And it's called The Fierce Urgency of Now. Lady Mahogany, Blessings in a Book Bag. They're out Saturday, always doing good stuff for youth at the Walkout event at Datham Park for Dr. King Day. So lots of ways to, as you said, Ambria, and we can't say it enough, our community is dynamic, and success is the success of others, right? I cannot say thank you enough. Thank you, Tia. We appreciate you and your resilient self. I think she's on the cover of the Savannah Morning News today, my friend. So get an autographed copy from Tia so you can see her and the work she's doing for the First Tee Golf Club here in Savannah, which is another phenomenal youth program teaching sports, also rules of sport, just being a dynamic team player. So check that out. Thank you to my sponsors again for David Pence and his All-State team of Tammy Toller, Angela Watson. They make this show possible. These conversations that you can stream at www.miatalks.com that are dedicated to investing in you and our community, could not do it without them. So definitely support them at 912-961-917. Kissy, as we saw, Ambria, she was cheering you on from Fresh Off the Dock Seafood, saying how phenomenal you are. Support them at Fresh Off the Dock. Another Savannah native business that they are just doing their best to not just feed people with their business, but feed our community. You can support them at 843-304-2055. So I'm going to put up Ambria's contact information one more time so you can either follow her on Facebook or on Instagram, and that's also including her organization, Operation STEM at a Time. I do want to acknowledge the Savannah chapter of the National Association of Women in Construction, because they were one of the sponsors of her STEM COVID outreach work that she's doing in this time. And so if you'd like to get on board with making sure that children have access to STEM in the time of COVID-19, please reach out to her at Operation One STEM at a Time. Next week's show, because a lot of y'all that watch our business owners, we are going to, as Ambria so thoughtfully said, shake up the blueprint. We're going to talk about 2021 business strategies next week. So that will be next Wednesday, 4 p.m. Please plan to tune in again next Wednesday, 4 p.m., dedicated to making your business rock in 2021. Ambria, we love you. Yes. Thank you for being wonderful.
Thank you for just always putting me on your platform. So I appreciate it.
It's an honor. And when I say it is such an honor, and if y'all know us behind the scenes, your family will tell you, like, I've climbed on things for you. Yes. I will do. You'll be like, do this. What do you want me to do? Okay, I'll figure it out. When you call me, I'll be like, I'm going to figure it out. No problem. So, y'all, we love you. Please have a fantastic rest of your week. Please be mindful of what you're putting into your spirit, into your mind, of the energy that is around you. Keep yourself grounded and supported in things that are positive and that are feeding your soul. Just be good to yourself. Be good to others. Love you. Ambria, stand by. Don't move.